Hi, welcome to our seminar. My name is Sarita McDonald. I am the board's fitness specialist, and I am here to present to you on heart health. So while February is often associated with Valentine's Day, it is also American Heart Month. And all month long, we have been highlighting different wellness activities that you can participate in to promote heart health. And as the fitness specialist, yes, it's my job to promote exercise throughout the year. And we have been all month long as well, which definitely contributes to heart health. We also take the time to take a step back and highlight this educational component on things that we can do to promote heart health. We will get into a little bit of the anatomy of the heart and how it functions, as well as talk about heart disease, risk factors, and how we can prevent heart disease, which is one of the most highest leading causes of death for men, both men and women. But again, it's also preventable. Okay, so let's get scientific for just a moment. So before we even discuss the different valves and chambers of the heart, I want you to take your hand, so hold out your hand, and then ball it up into a fist. You can go ahead and look at your hand and turn it around and just look at it in its three-dimensional form here. Now, when you think about the heart and the function that it has in the body, look at your fist and just know that that is about the size of your heart. The human heart is about the size of a fist. So that small size compared to the rest of your body, the heart has a big, big job to do. So I want you to think about that as we go through this presentation. So when we go to our doctor for our annual checkups, which I know we all do, we hear that lubbed up sound, and that is the sound of the valves opening and closing. And here are our valves here. And below that, we have the right ventricle. So this area is where blood, or the blue blood, returns from the body. So it's been deoxygenated, it's been used up in the body. It returns here, and then it's sent to the lungs, our pulmonary system, to undergo the oxygenation process. And it returns from the lungs over to the left ventricle, where we have our red blood. It's been oxygenized, so now it is red. And from there, it is then pumped up through the aorta and through the rest of the body to supply that oxygen, that energy, that fuel, nutrients, everything the body needs to carry out its functions from day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute, second to second. And while the heart's job, no bigger than your fist or about the size of your fist, its job is to supply blood to the body, the heart also has its own supply of blood, and that is where it's called the coronary arteries. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about blood pressure and cholesterol. So high blood pressure and high cholesterol are a couple of the most common forms of heart disease. And let's just break that down a little bit. So when we have our blood pressure taken, we see two numbers. The top number, or systolic, that's the force on the arterial walls when the heart is working. So think about when we're exercising and our heart is beating faster. The heart is working harder. That has a direct effect on the systolic pressure. Diastolic, or the bottom number, is the force on arterial walls when the heart is relaxed, so at rest. That is the bottom number. And really, when we look at diastolic number, we want that number to be low. So at rest, think about when the body's at rest, not doing any activity at all. We really like that number to be pretty low. And ideal numbers for blood pressure are below 120/80. So for your systolic pressure, 120 or below, ideally below that. And for diastolic, 80 or below. Okay. And then here we have a couple of items that have effects on our blood pressure, whether it be positive or negative. And one, exercise. Number one is exercise here. So exercise or a regular exercise routine has a very positive effect on our blood pressure, helping bring that number down. Cholesterol has an effect on our blood pressure. So the higher our cholesterol can be, we will talk a little bit about cholesterol, but the higher that number gets, the more negative effect or impact it's going to have on our blood pressure, because cholesterol tends to block our arteries, increasing the pressure that the heart has to have to pump blood through those vessels. Blood sugar levels also have a negative effect on our blood pressure. Increased blood sugar increases stress, which has a negative impact on blood pressure. And then moving on to stress, so that will be one of those physiological effects on blood pressure. We have pathological effects as well. So we have different levels of stress, or different types of stress, both positive and negative. And stress is not necessarily a bad thing. We have to make sure we're doing things to help manage stress or bring stress levels down so that they don't negatively impact our blood pressure. And we talk about all the time, we talk about year round, ways to manage stress, and exercise is one of those ways to help manage stress. And also having an effect on blood pressure is smoking. So hopefully we don't have any regular smokers here. And if so, it may be a good idea to think about getting into smoking cessation programs to help talk about those ways to help reduce that craving and hopefully eliminate that habit. So again, we can reduce that negative impact on our blood pressure and reduce our risk for heart disease. So smoking is definitely increasing risk factors for heart disease. All right, which brings us to heart conditions or types of heart disease here. So we've already mentioned cholesterol. High cholesterol is a form of heart disease. And high cholesterol can lead to high blood pressure, which can in turn lead to a heart attack. We'll talk about heart attacks in just a moment here too. And these are just some great visuals to look at what is happening in our heart when we have, those different types of conditions here. So over here we see what cholesterol looks like in the blood vessels, or in this case, the coronary arteries that we talked about, which supply blood directly to the heart. This is our heart's only supply of nutrients and oxygen and blood. So if we are someone who has high cholesterol and our arteries look like this here, with this plaque clogged up and blocking the artery, we're blocking off the supply, this direct line of nutrients to the heart. So I'd like to do a little visual here. And if you remember back to, or just remember using a water hose, if you bend the water hose, you've turned the water on, you bend the hose, what happens to the flow of water? It slows, right? It's maybe even slows down to a trickle, or it's just drip, drip, dropping. So that water hose represents your coronary arteries. So clogged arteries leads to damaged vessels. That's damage happening right here. Outer wall can be damaged and aged, and that breaks down. And what happens when you maybe add another kink to your water hose? So you've bent one section, now you've bent another section. We haven't turned off that supply of water, have we? That water is still flowing. However, we blocked it. It doesn't really have anywhere to go, does it? Well, that buildup of pressure right here just builds up onto those arterial walls and starts to cause damage. Okay? And while that damage is being caused to the arterial walls over time, those blood vessels can rupture. But also think about the supply of that water coming out through the water hose. There's nothing really coming out, right? Same thing with the coronary arteries here. There's no blood flow coming to the heart. Imagine what happens to that heart when it's not getting its blood and nutrients. It's going to seize up. It's going to get out of rhythm. The pumping action of the heart is going to get out of rhythm. It's not going to be able to do its job, which is supplying blood to the rest of the body. Over here, we have what a normal artery looks like, free and clear for blood to flow through. And over here, we have that plaque buildup, and that cholesterol is building up here, and lining the arterial walls, making that space more narrow for that blood to flow through, which again blocks the flow of nutrients, oxygen to the heart. So let's talk about what that can cause to happen. So we've got these blocked arteries. What can happen is a heart attack. And what's important to know about heart attack are what are the signs and symptoms. So this is something that is, maybe more common, but maybe only some of these symptoms are common. What we want to talk about is the difference in the symptoms from men to women. So we look over here for men, we get the nausea and vomiting. Yes. Also, jaw, neck, and back pain is a common symptom for heart attack. It may not always be all of these symptoms, your left arm, there's pain and shooting down your left arm, may not always be that. It can be any or all of these things. A pain in the chest or tight pressure, shortness of breath. Those are just the most common. Just because there's only 4 listed here, that doesn't mean there's something that couldn't be a symptom, that could lead or be a sign of a heart attack. When we look at women, we have those same 4 symptoms here. However, look at these subtle differences. We mentioned jaw, neck, and back pain. For women, it could be jaw, neck, maybe upper back pain. Chest pain is a symptom, but not always for women. And then we have a few other symptoms that may not be presented in men, which is pain in the lower chest or upper abdomen, fainting, indigestion, or extreme fatigue. These can be things that someone might associate with overexerting themselves. Maybe if someone hadn't eaten, a female hadn't eaten that morning and maybe had fatigue or had a fainting spell, may think just a cause of that. However, it can be very misleading and very common that it's a sign of a heart attack. So, but regardless of these symptoms, they are not normal. This is our body's way of letting us know that something is off, something is wrong. We should be seeing or seeking out the help of a medical professional, our physician, if any of these signs or symptoms present themselves. Don't let these symptoms go unchecked. Definitely see your doctor. So let's talk about prevention. So when we talk about preventing heart disease, is it better to do cardio training or strength training? Well, let's talk about the effects that each of these types of training have on the body. So when practicing cardiovascular activity, such as running, walking, swimming, cycling, dancing, those are our cardio activities, right? So the physiological effects on the heart is that there's growth in the left ventricle, right? So that ventricle, when their ventricle grows, heart is a muscle. Increase in size means increase in strength. So when the ventricle is larger, more blood can flow in, and with the stronger heartbeat, it can send more blood to the body with less work. So this includes at rest. So what it's going to have an effect on the blood pressure by bringing that blood pressure level down. When we participate in strength training activity, our physiological effects are that the left ventricle thickens. This also includes increasing in capillaries, so more blood vessels, which means better circulation in the body. So again, decreasing the heart rate, it lowers blood pressure, and overall you increase your energy levels and endurance. So what's the answer when we talk about cardio versus strength training? Is it better to do one over the other? The correct answer is that we do both. That's why both types of activity are very, very important and very crucial to our health. So both have a great effect on the heart. So we want to participate in both and have a balance. That's why it's important to meet with and talk with your fitness team so that we can help you with finding the right balance for you. So when we make plans to start our exercise and training routine, we should wait to the new year to get started, right? We work really hard at the beginning of the year. We train at our highest intensity. We work really hard during the winter because everyone's indoors. We're covered up. So we have time to work on our perfect body right before beach season, poolside parties. And then when weather kind of heats up or we get into the unideal temperatures, that's when we can kind of step back, right? Slow things down and relax, start eating how we want and watching a lot of TV and sitting all day, and then wait till the new year and do it all over again, right? No, that's not what we want to do. We want to start our exercise routine, build on it, and build consistency, right? So when we make a plan to start training, yes, exercise can be tough. That first day is always tough. Those first few minutes are tough. But when you've completed an exercise routine, you don't regret it. You usually feel really good. You feel energized. You feel accomplished. You should feel accomplished because exercise is tough. It should feel tough. But it's going to have great effects all around, not just on your heart. So definitely consider um, what activities you enjoy doing so that exercise can be fun while being tough on the body. So first work is also always the hardest, but think about what you're doing. So as soon as we teach our bodies that we're developing a habit, it learns to be more efficient at changing our energy systems. Okay. So that's why blood pressure decreases, cholesterol decreases, regulated insulin levels, because our body is learning to be more efficient while we are participating in those exercise or physical activity. So let's talk about cross training. So we talked about performing both cardiovascular and strength training activities, and that is a type of cross training when we combine those different types of activity into our exercise routine. Okay, so cross training has a positive effect by increasing both our fat burning potential and while improving our heart health. So when we look at fat, we have triglycerides, which are a direct energy unit for cardiovascular activity. So our body is going to burn fat or these triglycerides while we're participating in cardio activity. Again, that's your running, your walking, your cycling, your swimming. Anything aerobic in nature is going to be cardiovascular and help burn fat. Then we also have phospholipids and cholesterol. And these are used as in recovery after strength training. So in strength training, we break down our muscle cells. We kind of rip and tear those muscle cells when we train them, and that's okay. And as we build them back, they build back stronger. And that as a result of strength training, we help boost our metabolism. Okay, and our metabolism is just the way or the function that our body undergoes to process the food and drink that we consume. And ideally, we're getting most of our calories from food substance and not necessarily drink. Yes, we can drink calories, we have, we drink shakes, we drink juices. But, when considering our caloric intake, we want to consume whole natural foods as close to its natural source as possible. So think about that when you're consuming calories. Usually whole foods are more nutrient dense, whereas most liquid forms of calories that we tend to reach for are not as nutrient dense. They're more sugar rich. And we will talk about that soon when we get into March, which is Nutrition Month. We'll talk about the different types of nutrients as well. And then our final point here is that strength training promotes increased metabolism, ongoing fat burn, and reduced cholesterol. So again, cross training is going to be beneficial because it hits all of those key things. There's no one type of exercise that does it all. Need to participate in all types. So let's talk a little bit about what it is we can do to help reduce our risk of heart disease. And one of them is physical activity. So how much activity should we be doing? Well, the recommendation is 150 minutes of cardiovascular activity per week. And again, that's your running, walking, biking, any of those activities, 150 minutes per week. That can seem like a lot. And it is. Does it have to all be done at once? No. It can be broken up throughout the day, throughout the week, every day. It can be, 30 minutes of activity at one point of your day. Let's say you have more time to exercise in the morning. Get up in the morning and do 30 minutes every morning, 5 days a week. There's your 150 minutes there. Maybe you don't have 30 minutes in any given day to dedicate to exercise, but maybe you have 10 minutes that you can do at different points of your day. Break it up. Do 10 minutes in the morning when you get up, 10 minutes during your lunch break, and 10 minutes after work in the evening before bed. And that can be walking for 10 minutes. That can be strength training for 10 minutes. That can be flexibility training for 10 minutes. Just hit your 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 30 minutes whenever you can. Strength training. The recommendations are 2 times or more per week. Now, when we talk about strength training, we're not talking about hitting the gym, maxing out on the bench press, getting in the squat rack, pushing the truck up a hill. No, it doesn't need to be that strenuous. It doesn't need to be that intense. Strength training is anything that is weight bearing, overloading the muscles, and that's 2 times a week. And again, those sessions can be brief. 10 minutes is a good number to shoot for. 30 minutes is great. Just do what you can and build on it. It can be body weight movements. It can be movements that incorporate weights. And if you're attending our strength training classes on Monday and Fridays, then you're getting that 2 times of strength training each week. And we incorporate mostly body weight exercises. We include everyday items that you can use, that are right in your home. So all that's required for our strength training classes is that you just show up, just your body, and you are set. And that's your 30 minutes of strength right there, 2 times a week. Boom, done. So what else can you do to decrease your risk of heart disease? Know your numbers. It's definitely important to know where your levels are. So it's important to go in for your checkups every year. If you haven't gone this year, you need to get on the phone right now, schedule one. Well, it's still early in the year. If you haven't gone in the past year, it's time to get on the phone and schedule your next appointment as soon as possible. While we can take blood pressure at home, anyone can just buy an automatic blood pressure cuff to just check and track our blood pressure at home. We need to go see a professional to have our blood drawn to check our cholesterol. We need to know those cholesterol numbers. And when we talk about cholesterol, there are different types. There's your LDL, there's your HDL, there's your overall cholesterol as well. So there's 3 different numbers you really need to know there. Your overall cholesterol ideally is below 200. Your HDL, that is your good cholesterol. Think H for happy. So your good cholesterol should be 60 or above. And then your LDL, is your bad cholesterol, should be below 100. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as well. What else can we do? Decrease alcohol. So decrease or limit alcohol consumption and also avoiding smoking. We talked about that already. Drink plenty of water. It's a great cue to grab a sip of water right here. So drinking plenty of water, staying hydrated is definitely important. Not just for hydration's sake, especially when you're exercising, you'll want to make sure you're hydrated, but also for your body to carry out its normal functions. Water is a very important function in each of our cells' functions and to carry out its actions each day. So when we talk about hydration, yes, we've heard that a normal cue of drinking 8-ounce glasses of water a day. What does that really mean? How much is that? One simple way to think about it is if you know your body weight, which many of us do know what our normal body weight is, cut that number in half, and that's how many ounces of weight we should be drinking. So not drinking half your body weight in pounds, but half your body weight in ounces. So if someone weighs 200 pounds, half of that is 100. you should be drinking 100 ounces of water each day. Now, keep in mind that adjusts based on activity level as well. So, the more active you are, you're going to probably need a little bit more hydration, a little bit more water than that, because you are sweating, exerting yourself during your exercise. You'll want to rehydrate after those exercise sessions. So, a little bit more water is needed when you are more active. And then one of the most important ways, maybe the most important, is to eat healthy. So eating your variety of fruits and vegetables each day, eating your whole grains, eating your healthy fats. Those are all going to contribute to healthy numbers and a healthy heart. All right. So that is the end of our presentation. If you have any questions, you are welcome to reach out. Again, my name is Sarita McDonald. You can